We just heard some commentary from Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right hand, who said the world would be better without SPACs. Why do a SPAC and why now?
Well, I can't speak for the masses, Emily, but I can tell you this, that the SPAC world is custom made for us because we have deal flow coming out of our ears. The barrier to entry has been capital. And now with a SPAC, we level out the playing field and we can really have a big time competitive advantage and go out, and Himanshu and I through Slam bring a lot of value to founders and companies.
Interesting. Himanshu, what kind of companies do you want to buy? What kind of deals do you want to do, and with whom?
Sure. I'd actually love to answer, add on to what Alex said, because I think it's exactly right. When we think about SPACs, it's actually almost a democratic way for the retail and then certain institutions to get into an IPO before it happens. When you think about IPOs in general, they're given usually to a small subset or a subset of large institutional investors. So there's a lot of people and a lot of retail and institutions that don't get to participate. And for us, we think this is a great way for the retail community and then others to get in there early. And they also have a put at $10. So to us, we think it's a really interesting product, and I think one that's here to stay.
When you talk about deal flow, Alex, you just mentioned there are so many deals coming your way. What kind of deals are you looking for? What is going to be an attractive target for this particular vehicle?
Yeah, look, we look at about 1,000 deals per year. About 300 or 400 of those, we're the huntees. They're coming after us. They want to do business with us. Look, we like sports, media, technology. Anything we do is going to have a tech, should be the backbone of the company. And it's companies where we can get involved, tell the story, get involved with the founders. Himanshu or I, or maybe both, will sit on the board and be very involved.
So whose idea then was it to do a SPAC, Alex? Did the bankers approach you or vice versa?
I think Himanshu and I both wanted to do it. And, I was a little bit on the fence. I would only do it with someone who was best in class from an institutional point of view. Himanshu and Antara returned over 59% to their investors this year. They're backed by Blackstone. So you have the perfect storm between what I bring, social media, what I bring with my following, awareness, and then, Himanshu, one of the great investors in our game today. I thought 1 + 1, we were ready to do not only a SPAC, but to build a great franchise.
Now, Himanshu, Antara Capital has had quite a remarkable year. That said, SPACs, they have been controversial. I was looking at this study out of Stanford, looking at the 2019-2020 cohorts of SPACs, which found that returns were up 32% for the sponsors, but down 35% for post-merger investors. Is this really a good deal for the public?
So that's a really good question. When you look at SPACs, it's like investing in any other asset class. There's going to be winners, there's going to be good losers, there's going to be good SPACs, there's going to be bad SPACs. Thinking about hedge funds, mutual funds, all the different institutions, some fare better than others. And I think what you need to be able to do, there are a lot of SPACs out there, and this is why I think our SPAC is so special. You need to be able to pick and believe in both the management team, their ability to source a deal, and have an alignment of interest. And I think we, as Alex and I, and Slam Corp, we have all those ingredients to be very successful, where we believe our SPAC will come up with a great deal. To be fair, when you look at those stats, we were invested in certain pipes last year. A good example is QuantumScape. QuantumScape was the best performing SPAC of the year. It was up, I believe, over 700% and has actually maintained most of those gains this year as well. So I don't think not all SPACs are created equal, and not all sponsors and management teams are created equal. But I think what Alex and I bring is a best-in-class sponsor and management team to the SPAC world or the SPAC area, and I do believe we're going to be very successful. Oh, sure. I wanted to add one thing, and this is something that I think it shows how Alex and I both think about really working with, our team, with the companies we're involved in. Alex will give you multiple examples of how, he has really added value in names. But I think QuantumScape is a good example where we were anchor investors in the pipe there. And we became very close. Our firm became very close with Jagdeep. Alex got to know him as well. He's actually on our board of directors. So it shows the approach that Slam, Alex, and I are taking is very different than just being a financing vehicle. We actually are partnering up with the teams and really trying to add value along the way, hence why he's on our board.
So let's talk about the differentiator because, as I understand it, it's called Slam, Alex, because you've got the most MLB Grand Slams in history. Yet I know you feel strongly about this not being a sports franchise, despite the bid that you made for the Mets. What do you think the unique differentiator is then, Alex?
Well, I'll tell you, is exactly what I learned from the best boss I ever had, Mr. George Steinbrenner, the owner of the Yankees. He told me, Alex, the three most important things to winning a world championship is team, team, team. So we have that in colors. When I think about Himanshu and his senior team, when I think about what we bring from a consumer, telling the story, being involved, hitting the retail market, and then our board that Himanshu mentioned, don't forget we have Mark Lowry, who I believe is a top e-commerce guy in the world. Look at all his, from diapers to Jet.com to being the CEO of Walmart. His work at Walmart the last 4 years has been nothing short but incredible. So we're coming at you from many spaces. There's many ways for us to bring value, and we can't wait to get this party started because the only bad thing about this is we can only buy one company.
You mentioned, you are the CEO, Alex. When you see some of these celebrities who are attaching themselves to SPAC, they're advisors. They're not in that driver's seat. And I'm curious, why be the CEO? I assume it means you're all in. And how does that rank on your sort of life goals, list of life goals?
Well, life goals, besides being a father to 4 beautiful kids and 3 girls, I think, look, I can't speak about other athletes or entertainers. What I can tell you is that being a CEO, I'm taking a primary, not a secondary or tertiary. I'm fully involved, and I'm fully involved with my time, my energy, my resources, and I'm all in. It's also the biggest investment that A-Rod Corp and me individually is going to make. Himanshu is going to make a significant investment, and we're going to be one of the largest investment in our own pipe, in our own investment. So we want to have complete alignment and full transparency.
Himanshu, since Alex mentioned Mark Lowry, curious how much tech in particular is really going to be the focus here. I know you're looking at it to be the backbone, essentially, but how much is that going to guide the decision that you make when looking for an asset?
Sure. So when we're looking for an asset, as we've mentioned, and you've mentioned earlier, we're looking for something in the sports, media, health and wellness sector with a tech focus. So we want something that's going to have a large total addressable market, one that's going to have high growth, best-in-class management team, but can be a disruptor in its industry. So in most cases, that involves a technology of some sort. So I do think we're going to end up spending most of our time in terms of speaking and looking at companies for acquisition candidates is something that has a tech focus and is a technology within those industries. So that to us is most attractive right now because the world keeps evolving. We think about it, pre-COVID to COVID to now as we're coming out, what is the world going to look like? I think technology is going to be what's going to be pushing innovation and that are going to be the better investments going forward.
Well, and talk about evolving, Alex, I know you've been investing since you were a young baseball player, building up a pretty sizable portfolio. Do you have a take on Bitcoin or a thought there, given that it's the latest craze aside from SPACs?
Yeah, my take is I don't understand any part of it. I've been reading some articles and getting up to speed. But one thing, again, going back to what Warren Buffett, my mentor, taught me, stick to your knitting, stick to your circle of confidence. And then that's fairly small. We like to go really narrow and deep, not wide and shallow. One of the things that brings me a lot of optimism about Slam is, we have over 30 to 35 companies in our portfolio. 6 of them or so we're taking public this year. Hims and Hers has been a phenomena. It came out at 1.6 billion. It went over $3 billion in market cap. We have Archer, the flying cars. We've had Wheels Up, and there's a couple more coming. So we're very excited. We're poised. We've learned our lessons from the good, the bad, and the ugly. And look, we don't want to make any assumptions. We're coming in here with eyes wide open, and we don't want to replace wisdom with a bull market. So we understand things are very expensive, but Himanshu and I are going to be extremely disciplined.
Himanshu, do you have a Bitcoin take?
So we're not involved in Bitcoin. I think it's an interesting quandary at this point. It's obviously gone up 200% or whatever it's exactly up for the year. And it's a question of store of value. As the U.S. continues to print dollars to fund the COVID, issues around COVID and funding the government and individuals, I do think that there needs to be other stores of values. I think Alex will tell you, we both had to talk about baseball cards, something that's near and dear to me. That's a store of value that's actually outperformed many markets and many individual stocks over the last 20 years. So I understand the use for Bitcoin. In terms of valuing it, it is something that's difficult for us to know exactly what the right value is. So similar to Alex, it's one we're just happy to stay on the sidelines for.
I did read in your background, Himanshu, that you sold a young Alex Rodroguez baseball card back in the day when you were a blooming entrepreneur. Alex, before we go, you tweeted that you were praying for your brother, Tiger Woods, waiting for more news. Have you heard from him, or is there anything you'd like to say?
No, I've just sent him a note of good wishes. My prayers go out to him and his family. And obviously, we're praying for him and a safety, speedy recovery.